So I have retired F-16 pilot Chris Lehto on. I can't wait to talk to him. He was on this show back in last July. He has been kicking UFO or UAP butt ever since. So I can't wait to have him on the show and discuss what he has been up to in the last several weeks. Tomorrow at this very same time, right here on YouTube and Facebook and I think Twitch. Yes, I'm going to be talking about History Channel's season premiere of the mystery. What is it? The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. That's the name of it. And I have the owner of the ranch, Brandon Fugel, and the lead scientist, Eric Bard. They're both going to be on. Eric's going to be talking to us right from the Skinwalker Ranch itself. So check that out. That's tomorrow night. And that's also going out in the podcast feed as usual. A few weeks ago, I mentioned a friend of the show started a podcast called Nightmare Houses. And that's coming to KGRA radio as well at 1 a.m. ET Saturdays. So that's for all you night owls out there, people on the West Coast. Check that out. I have the link to that down in the show notes and down in the YouTube text. So check that out. The latest one is called Breezeknoll. It's a place in Connecticut. And what a story that is. You got to check that podcast out. Next week, we're going to be at James Fox Compound in Vermont. And we're going to be talking about his latest film called the Virginia Crash. It's a heck of a, I checked that out. I was lucky enough to see the final cut of that. And he just has to tune it up a little bit. It's going to be a great movie. Speaking of who we have on tonight, on the 17th of May, I also have Air Force fighter pilot Sean Cahill. He'll be on the show. I've just given that out there now since I have Chris on. And okay, this week's blog is a UFO creature report from Kofu, Japan, part 2. So we already had that first one up last week. And that gets turned into an audio blog. That's also put in the podcast feed. And one last thing, I never like to talk about money or money issues, but I have noticed that our Patreon, for some reason, maybe I said something wrong, I'm not sure, but our subscription level has gone way down, like a quarter of what it used to be. So we're just barely in the black. So if anyone wants to help out, you can see our Patreon support page over at podcastufo.com. It's also down in the link below in the YouTube channel. So I greatly appreciate everyone that does support the show, and anyone can do that for $2 or more a month. And I do appreciate every single listener. Okay, that is enough housekeeping, and I'm bringing in our guest. Chris, welcome back.
I'm happy to be here, man. I just signed up for your Patreon.
Oh, wow. It worked already. Jeez.
Yeah. You should put some higher, I think it's $5 is the most we can get.
Oh, no, it goes, it goes up.
Sorry.
Yeah. But we'll talk about a higher thing later. Anyway.
Well, happy to be here, man. I remember that show. That was my first real live show. I remember it clearly. I think I'll never forget it. Yeah, really kind of, I remember getting the request, to go on the UFO show. And initially I was like, I don't know. It's all about UFOs. I'm not a UFO guy. I remember that, but I did it, and I'm happy I did. I think you really helped, kind of mentored me in ways. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, and I was really lucky enough to be on your stream one time. That was
that helps a lot. Yeah, I was like, hey,
yeah,
that was cool. Yeah, it was great. I learned a ton. Yeah, I was really happy to ask you the questions.
Yeah, right. So I noticed you quickly surpassed all my YouTube subscribers as far as numbers go. You've done very well. You're getting a lot of people paying attention to you. You found a lot of work, and you talk about great physics things too. I'm really into a lot of that stuff, and like the double slit thing, and the consciousness. I hope we get into that topic a little bit at some point this evening, because that really is such a mystery. And I've tried to understand all of that. And I think after watching your video, I understood a little bit more than I did. In other words, if you just quickly, in a nutshell, if you can, for those who are not familiar with the double slit theory, how that works is so bizarre.
It's so bizarre. Yeah. It's so I guess 1801, That's Thomas Young.
Right.
He's in the UK in England, and he did this experiment where he just had 2 slits cut into a wall, and then he held up a light behind it. And it basically, what he proved is that light acts like a wave. Before that, they were saying they didn't know if it was particle or wave. And so he did that experiment. And because there's 2 slits, right? So the light goes through one slit and it goes through the other. And if you imagine water going through just a wave, if you imagine it's water, on the outside, you'll have a wave pattern, right? Like if you drop rocks into a pond, you get a wave pattern out. Well, what happens is those 2 slits, it's like dropping 2 rocks in a pond, and now you get what's called interference, right? So you have a cooperative interference or destructive, constructive interference or destructive interference, where they add together. So waves can add together, and so what happens is it gives you this wave pattern on the wall, where you'll kind of get these different bands of light. And many YouTubers have done amazing videos. Veritasium, he's done a great video explaining it. And it's really interesting when I guess to think about that, that light that we see, it comes through and it acts like a wave. It's just very, very crazy.
But also the consciousness is what can change something. The fact that we are observing, that is the most bizarre part of the whole thing.
Yep,
and
exactly.
There's other things like that too in quantum physics, that once observed, it's totally different, and it doesn't matter how far away it's observed from. So it's really head scratching.
Yeah, and so the head scratcher is that made sense. Back in the day, he just had a big light. Well, as time went on, so the 1920s, basically, we have machines now where we can just shoot one electron. So it's much more refined. So now they shot one electron through one of the holes, right? There's only shooting one. It can't go through both slits. And what they found is they would get the same pattern, that same wave pattern against the wall, right? So even one electron was somehow interfering with itself, right? And which that alone doesn't make sense. So then they thought, well, which hole does it go through? Which of the slits? And this is where the consciousness comes in, because if you put a detector right behind one of the slits, what happens is now which slit it goes through. And so what happens is it doesn't act like a wave anymore. It acts like a particle, and it'll basically, like you shoot a gun normally. If you shoot the electrons like guns, if you don't look which slit it goes through, it looks like a wave, right? But now if you try and figure out which slit it goes through, it's a particle. So that's where, if you try and observe what happens, if you try and figure out the true information, it seems to like the wave function collapse, the probability function, which is really what quantum mechanics is. The Schrodinger equation basically gives you the probability of where the particle is going to hit, right? But it doesn't actually behave like a particle till we look at it. And that's where the consciousness comes in. And now is it basically are we mentally able to affect this? Where does it come in why does it turn into a particle? It's just so
and
crazy.
that can happen with one of the experiments, like even if it's online and someone is thinking about it. 5,000, I think they did 5,000 experiments with people. It doesn't matter where they're calling in from or watching it from. It could be on Mars. It doesn't matter. It does the same thing, which is totally bizarre. And the entanglement thing is another thing that's really bizarre, but we're not really here to talk about all that, but it's still really fun.
Well, I think it's interesting. I'm interested in it because for one thing, it's been baffling scientists, for hundreds of years. And I have seen there are some YouTube videos. I need to dive into them deeper that say that it's not really that it's not really baffling scientists, or something, like we're just reading the results wrong for hundreds of years. But for me, it's interesting because it leads into the realm of remote viewing, right? It leads into the realm of telekinetics, right? It leads into the realm of transferring information through some other medium, right? I mean, if say the results are true, like you just mentioned, and just by thinking about an experiment and really focusing on it, we can affect it. then you're proving that there's some other medium, at least, that we can communicate through. There's something else besides electromagnetic waves. So,
Yeah.
And that would go, and that's what excites me about UAPs, or it seems there's something there to me, it seems like.
Right. And, I mean, I've talked about it many times. There's a connection between everything somehow, and everything's vibration. That whole thing of, you can't really touch matter. It's so bizarre. And all that stuff. I mean, I know the show is on UFOs, UAP, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. Are you hesitant to use the term UFO? Or I see you use UAP a lot. I mean, is it the stigma thing, or does it matter one way or the other with you?
I don't know, actually. The UAP term doesn't seem as common. Like I still have to explain it a lot.
Yeah.
And so if market, you mentioned you're trying to bring money in, you're trying to bring funds, we're trying to create this giant project. So if they don't know what you're talking about, maybe it's an advantage or not a disadvantage. I find myself sometimes, I don't care to use it. I use UFO. When you first sent me that email, it was a stigma. I was like, well, I'm not a UFO person, am I? I never thought of myself, as going on UFO shows specifically. But now I think it's just a term that has less baggage, I guess. But to me, it's interchangeable, I guess.
Yeah. I remember when I first reached out to you, you did your video was something like, I'm debunking the debunkers. And it was basically Mick West's opinion on the gimbal UFO video. I think that's what it was. And you went into great detail about that. So, but you've done a lot of great work out there. And has it been enjoyable, rewarding?
Yeah, I mean, definitely super rewarding. It's a lot of, it's very enjoyable. It's more rewarding than enjoyable, I guess. So I put it, I'm just extremely curious. I do actually really want to know, in my free time, I think I would search out for this stuff if I didn't have a YouTube channel. I would be I watch those videos on the weekends, Saturday morning. I like watching crazy quantum videos or UFO, stories.
Yeah. I'm guilty of all that myself. So, what are, just if you would go over some of the videos that you've done, some of the, I think I want to say that you've kind of made a few breakthroughs along the way on certain videos you've done. And if you can, a little bit of refresher, what you think about the gimbal UFO videos that's out there. And have you looked into a lot of other ones as well since that time?
Yeah, I've looked. There hasn't been too many Navy releases. What kind of brought me to the next level this year? It seems like it goes in jumps. You mentioned the YouTube growth and everything. It seems like this was the introduction of, better flying videos, and related to the Navy, off the East Coast. Kind of the pictures, right? You have the blimp, the sphere, and the acorn. Those kind of photos are really interesting. It was cool to get, because I could map it out to kind of, I could confirm it was inside an F-18, and then the Navy confirmed that these images were legit, essentially. So the provenance was really good. So I did like that, but it seems like we haven't really gotten anything else. Like no other major releases that I can think of for Navy stuff.
Right. Well, now I saw you were on a show.
The range fowlers, yeah.
You were on a show with Lou Elizondo. Was that? But there were other people involved. What was the situation there at that time?
It was a roundtable on Artisan Tony's show with Alexei Novitsky.
I see.
Yeah, so it's we do roundtables. Basically, we meet maybe every few weeks, and we just chat. Basically, we're just having long form discussions on whatever comes to our mind. Alexei, he does a part. He has physics background, but basically he has this very interesting but novel theory of the universe. Essentially, basically how you mentioned the vibrations. So that's kind of Alexei's thing. Is basically we're all related in vibrational levels. Basically, I could explain it, but it sounds like we would talk about something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was it. And yeah, Lou was on that. That's the only time I've really come, talk with Lou. It's very interesting. I mean, I was very impressed. I mean, he answered questions, or he asked many of the questions. Actually, kind of drove the whole interview, and did drive my thinking in different ways, and had me kind of question some assumptions I just held, which I appreciate.
Right. And you did a show on, let's see, the Debrief did a story, I think it was called Sex and Lies and UFOs or something like that. And you did a show on that. And I hadn't really read through the Debrief article until I watched your video. And but you saw a lot of what goes on firsthand in the past, and similar people with that, whatever you want to call it. I know what you termed it in your own video.
D-bag.
Yeah. Yes. But there is a lot of there is some of that in the military. I know that just from people, friends of mine, that you have to kind of you have to deal with that and choose what to do with it. But
you have to remember those. I mean, those people got to that position. It's not easy. It's very, very hard. To be a general is extremely hard. So just getting to that position takes a certain type of person. That they're hardcore. They devote everything to that. Their whole life essentially, is devoted to that. And I tried to relate, and I was fired up in that. And people are people, I don't think I would do anything necessarily different, or I can't say that you or me would do anything different. I would hope so. But you have to remember, you're under so much pressure from the system, that's really my belief, is that you're just a small piece of a very, very large giant system. And so I don't know. I don't think it lets them out of making those decisions. They have to live with them. Right. But I think we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised when the wars kick off. They have always kicked off. I think we should just sigh and say, look, how can we stop this? But the shock and surprise is just, I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess, to me.
Yeah. This comes up here from R&R. Your review of the Turkey UFO video was a game changer.
Wow, cool.
So anyway, when he showed people in his family, that's pretty nice.
Awesome.
So the Turkey UFO, I think I was on your show about that time when you were looking into that. And so that's been kind of a controversial, some people have claimed that it's a camera anomaly, but it's really a bizarre image. I'm going to see while you're talking, well, first of all, after all your work you did on that, what do you think? What's your general consensus of that?
My general consensus is I'm still not sure, I guess. I do want to go. It's just weird to me that it just stopped as well. It's like there was 2007. They had the mass sightings in the summer in Turkey, up by Istanbul. Then there's 2008 again. They had mass sightings in the same area. And then 2009, they had all the videos, but really from one guy, Yalman. And he got
this
all
is
these
it up on the screen there for those of you watching live now. That was just one picture, but if you focus in, it almost looks like two heads right in the very center. And there are pictures of that. I'm going to see if I can find one of that. It does kind of look like two beings, but I mean, so that was all from one particular camera or one filmographer?
Yeah, so he's a night guard, and it's right. He was basically a guard for one of these Tatilkoyu. What is that? A vacation village. And I hope to go there this summer. Actually, I met some Turks just at this last conference. Actually, Europeans that moved to Turkey, and they were like, "Yeah, come. We'll help you. We can help you out." And I asked them, "Is it safe and everything?" They said, "Yeah." So I think I'll go this summer and try and track that guy down, Yalman. But basically, he's able to zoom in over the Bosphorus there, and he has this extra doubling some sort of lens on the end that can actually double it again. So it's like zoomed in 400 times. So it's quite zoomed in.
Oh, yep.
And
But
yeah,
I mean,
I
if you
did
look
the
up
same
there
thing.
now,
Yeah.
look at it. They sure look like two beings, don't they? And also they move. They move, or they have moved in the video. It would be awful hard to fake something like that. But like you say, the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, because when I zoomed in, I used my computer and I stabilized it, and I zoomed way in, and for the several seconds I could get it stabilized, I couldn't see any movement. I didn't see any obvious movement. Yeah, like they were like moving around or talking or anything, or it just looked like stationary, which kind of just, I don't know, maybe it's something weird. But I mean, it hasn't been fully debunked as far as I know. It hasn't been debunked. The biggest argument is it's a cruise ship. That's what they said on Metabunk on their website, and that just took off, right? So then everyone's like, it's a cruise ship. But I have one example in there in my video is the moon, right? So they have it in relation to the moon, which it was the phase of the moon you can get by the video as well, and it matches the date and it matches the time. And so based off of that, the moon is 14 degrees above the horizon, and that makes the actual object, ship, or whatever you want to call it, 7 degrees above the horizon. So if it's 7 degrees above the horizon, I mean, there's no way it can be a cruise ship. I mean,
it'd have to be miles off the planet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so if assuming that's correct, and I don't see how it isn't, there was I was looking on Mick West's site, and he was saying that this could be a mast of a ship, but it doesn't seem to make sense to me. It looks like what he says is a mast of a ship clearly looks like a light post, a lamp post that they have all around that area, so it seems like it's 7 degrees above the horizon, so then that would lead me to believe is if it is not real, then it's like just an elaborate hoax,
which would really suck.
It would really suck. Yeah.
Now,
but then you hear about that, because when I talked to you, the reason I talked to you is because you had interviewed Roger Lear. Yeah, and he was there, and he said I looked through the telescope.
Yep.
And I looked through the telescope and I saw this thing, and to me, I mean, we're just not going to believe all these people that say that. I don't know.
I would like to know if there's other people involved. Also, I mean, he was one person I spoke with, but what is the general consensus?
James Mawson. I heard James Mason was there, which is interesting because I think he's going to the UFO disclosure, the symposium, basically 27 May that I'm speaking at as well.
Oh, let's talk about that. Where's that going to be?
Yeah, I should put that up behind, actually. It's so that's Vernal, Utah. This is gonna be the first conference I've gone to. I'm excited, man. It's pumped. The speaker list is totally full. We have Travis Taylor, Avi Loeb's gonna be there. I'll be there in a group. We'll have some disclosure for sure, stuff coming out. There's gonna be the Cousin brothers. They're gonna have a video, or I guess a new documentary that they're releasing. So that'll be in Vernal, Utah, 27-29 May. MegaCon. It's mega disclosure, MegaCon.
Oh, I wish I'd known that about that prior in advance. It might be something I would be willing to come out to. Now, when you say the Cousin brothers,
the
Cousin brothers, so the
Cousins brothers, I didn't know them. I'm sorry.
They're not from that YouTube channel, are they?
No, they make documentaries. I think it was about I'm not sure who was in it, but maybe.
Oh, okay.
Or somebody.
Oh, all right. Well,
I don't know. Yeah. I haven't heard of him, but I know Avi Loeb will be there. We have an event planned. The first day, we're going to have an event related to this project.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the project.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah. So, what is the project exactly?
Yeah. So the project. So basically, the question is, what's the number one place, or where would you actually invest to actually get some of this evidence made? Say you're out there, you want to invest, you want to put your money where your mouth is, or your mouth where your money is, and help move the needle, help find evidence for UAPs. What would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
In what way? What you mean?
I guess
Like,
where's a place where UAP enthusiasts can come together and discuss projects and actually work on finding science? You know, because if you look at our science now, it's all organized. It's all based on funding that they can receive.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. All the scientists were like, well, why, guys, why aren't you looking at UAPs? And they're always like, funding, you know? So it's, but then you look at, okay, well, let's say I have funding, right? Let's say I want to fund science. You know, where can you give it? You know, I guess you could send it Galileo project. You could give it to UAPX, right? I'm sure they could use it, you know, but then, yeah, there's just all these communities, right? There's no one place where you can really like orient the community towards a goal. You know, there's all these disparate projects going around.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the point, is basically why we partnered with some big groups or names in the space, and basically to create a community where scientists can be there and we can bring the funding together and that's it, you know.
Now, does the Galileo project part of this?
No, I think of this as a grassroots friendly competitor to the Galileo project.
I see. And how's that going to launch, and how's that going to work exactly?
Yes, so we have some exciting plans but that I can't relay or get in trouble from my team, is basically how it works. But I will say the MegaCon disclosure will be the first kind of big notice on what we're releasing.
All right. So what I guess what I'm going to have to ask you to do is to get back in touch with me after that, and I'll put information into the show notes of this show so people can check back.
Okay. Well, I can give you a teaser here of if they want.
Yeah. Are you going to share a screen or something?
Yeah, let me share a screen.
Yeah. Sure. And by the way, your videos are really good. You have all kinds of things going on in those.
For the YouTube videos.
Yes, you do a really good job of that. So, all right. So what do we got here?
So this is it. This is all we're giving away right now.
Okay.
For those who seek the truth of revolutions begun, it all starts with 42.
And
so, yep, you can log here at UAPsociety.com. And we'll send updates, or my Patreon. My patrons, so one benefit I give them is they get first access to everything. So that's it. Yeah. We have Douglas Adams quote here: "I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I've ended up where I needed to be." Douglas Adams.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Whoops. I'm trying to. No, you did it. Thank you. Yeah.
But actually, what we're trying to do is leverage Web 3.0, which is really all the technology that's coming on board right now with blockchain technology. We want to use decentralized storage that can't be destroyed, essentially. So if you want to save files for many, many years and make sure that they are verifiable, if you want to confirm evidence, if you want to fund experiments, if you want to write proposals to get funded for experiments.
So is this like is this sort of like an open source also type of thing?
The whole goal is to get open source evidence. Like, that is the whole goal, to find the truth with open source. Everybody funds it, but the one agreement is the information has to be open source. At some point, I think we'll delay it maybe like a week or two. Mm-hmm. For people that are invested in the project, they can get access to the information sooner. But that's the idea, to bring together the science. The scientists are already there. You know, UAPX at any moment could go do probably some pretty sweet project. You know, and we could fund it with this, or someone could fund even just one trip. You know, they say we're going to go to Hestaland. Mm-hmm. You know, they have all the crazy guys. They're going to run out there with all this equipment, and they have tons of equipment. You know, they go to Skinwalker Ranch. We don't have to go to Skinwalker Ranch. You know, we could pay somebody.
Yeah, you're actually going to be out. That's not where you're going. Is not far from there, right? Yes.
Yeah. So I'll go to Blind Frog Ranch. That's actually who's supporting it.
Well, I'm going to ask the owner of Skinwalker Ranch something tomorrow off air. We'll see what he says. I would love to do a show from Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know, but I'm going to quickly change the subject and put this up here. So this is a question to you from another U.S. Air Force vet. Please ask Chris to comment. UAP don't seem to interact with atmosphere Mach as not Mach. He meant to say Mach or show inertial mass. Also, the transmedium definitely not ours. What is your comment on that?
I mean, it certainly seems from all the stuff we're getting from Lou, they haven't released any more information, but what we've seen is, there's the key thing is there's no sound.
I know.
That's so weird.
It is. It really is. I mentioned this while I was on the MUFON show. They asked me about my UFO sighting. And the number one weirdest thing for me in my UFO sighting was that this thing is moving, it's stopping and moving again, and there's absolutely no sound. It's dead quiet. And that was the most eerie part of my sighting. And I never knew, I went years before I ever heard someone else say, oh yeah, and it made no sound. That is kind of a common denominator, between a lot of UFO sightings. You rarely hear, every once in a while you hear someone will say, oh yes, it made a humming noise or a buzzing noise or high-pitched noise, something like that. But it's really rare. It's really rare that they make any sound at all. Bizarre.
I was surprised by that. Yeah, I remember actually talking about that on your show. I remember being surprised that they're all no sound, I don't know. I remember Nick Pope, he said that they get a humming sound, a deep bass humming sound from if you're close to it.
Yeah.
Or close to some object. I asked what type, he said a large triangle or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've also heard that about a triangle. From someone that claims they witnessed one and they felt pressure from it. And they also said that there was like a humming, a very low humming noise.
Yeah, so the no sound and the transdimensional, the no Mach, it all seems like it's not really there. It's like a light. That's where I was thinking maybe it's like a wave, and that's how it can just move freely, like light. Light is like a wave. It can just move freely, can't go through hard objects. There's certain objects can't go through, but and then when you hear about it causing some sort of sound, then it doesn't fit, then it's kind of weird. So maybe that's where we're seeing different types of vehicles or at least different types of propulsion.
Yeah, no, I think we probably are. I mean, from what I've heard all over these years that I've been doing this is people are seeing different things. And occasionally two people will be standing together and see a different thing, which may go back to the consciousness type of situation, the interaction somehow. And I don't know, can you explain what your thoughts? I mean, I've been asked many times on, from emails and listeners, like, what is the consciousness connection? And I've never been able to quite explain that. How do you think that consciousness may play a role when it comes to people seeing a UFO or UAP?
Well, I guess it's related to kind of what you said, is where you have two people and they see different things. I think it was in Lakatsky's book, Skinwalkers of the Pentagon, where he was there, I think, on the ranch, and he saw basically some UAP in another room, but no one else saw it.
Yeah.
So for me, it relates to that other pathway. There's some other pathway where we can receive information. And if you think about consciousness, it's just a crazy concept in itself. Before I was here, where was I? And then why am I able to see what's going on and experience this if I'm going to die, right? Like, how can I experience this now if I'm going to be nothing at some point in the future, and I was nothing before.
Right.
So I've always just been kind of enamored with consciousness in its case. It's just a crazy thing. But how it relates to UAPs is it would be this other maybe pathway of information exchange. If there is telekinetic pathways, if there is, if you can affect things with your mind mentally, then it shows that we're more than just our our bodies, I guess, and then that could go some way to explaining some of these weird events, the high strangeness or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why. I've also heard, after talking to Leslie Kane, I interviewed her as well, and she's did that whole study on surviving death. And so for her, she thought there was clearly a connection between UAPs and consciousness. And so for her, and it was, she said that Whitley Strieber, he wrote in his book, he wrote that when people see UAPs, they will often see ghosts as well, and vice versa. When people supposedly see ghosts, they see UAPs. So she's very, or not confident, but when I interviewed her, she was, really interested in that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I have heard of things like that, and it doesn't stop there. I mean, it gets into the crypto stuff too. People talk about Bigfoot. I've had people talk about that. There's a lot of weird things happening all at once. I talk now and then with Paul Eno. He does a radio show down around Rhode Island somewhere, and Providence, I think. And his thought is that everything is connected. UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, anything paranormal is connected. And he thinks it's all interdimensional. And, I got to say that's as good of an answer as any answer that you could have. I have no idea. And, the one thing that does, when it gets back to, I had someone on the show, a scientist who was on the show, that's saying that we manifest this. That's what we're doing. We're manifesting a UFO. And so I questioned him. I said, okay, what about the Phoenix Lights? There are thousands and thousands of witnesses. And what about Tinley Park? Many hundreds of witnesses, things like that in Chicago. And there's many mass sightings. I don't really remember what his reply. He had some reply that really made people in the chat room get angry. I forget what it was, but anyway, but how would that work if our consciousness is how these things somehow manifest when it's a mass sighting?
I mean, I don't see how it could. I don't see, I think, I've been researching, once you get into the consciousness, once you pull the thread on the consciousness, it's going. Like the woo, everybody's like, stay away from the woo, but then there's a lot of woo in the subject. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I saw a UFO. That's kind of woo, guys, I just want to throw that out there, but whatever, there's everybody has a line. But when you start pulling back the consciousness, what I think is that we're all, I think we could agree that it's a shared experience. We're all seeing, we're all different, at least entities in this dimension of a shared experience. And so in that case, I think that's why I really like the mass sightings. I've been trying to look into Phoenix Lights more. But right now I'm looking at crop circles, or trying to. But the mass sightings is really interesting to me because that doesn't work, right? You can always say it's one source. That person, they were on drugs, they were crazy, or that camera has glare in it, but now you have two. And now you have two cameras. And you're like, oh, geez, what about two people? All right, well, if they were both on drugs, okay. Yeah. Once you get more sources, it does knock that out, Yeah. And so I don't know. It's quite interesting to me. But it would mean there's another pathway. If anything, my study of UAPs is, it's opened my eyes to, or my mind, I guess, to looking for more things. We don't know nearly as much as we think we know.
Yes.
So by finding that out, just proving that pathway, even if we don't solve the UAP phenomena, we don't figure out what the phenomena is, we still improve our understanding. So that's why it's also exciting for me. Well, I love the subject. I love future technology. I love progressing. I love pointing out hypocrisies, and I would love to find the truth, and maybe just, if anything, to give us more understanding about the universe. Right. If it sounds like it's very difficult to know what it is. It's very elusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been 80 years.
Yeah.
We still don't have any good photos, really. I mean, we don't have any super clear video. However you cut it, that's weird, you know?
Yeah. And then are we going to be, with great CGI getting better and better all the time, we're going to be able to trust what we see in the future? It's going to be awful hard, to figure it out. If CGI can at one time be unprovable that it's CGI, that'll be tough. And we're heading in that direction, really. So I had an interesting comment. I was speaking with a friend last night, and she said, wherever we are in time, we're at the top of our technological, crest, no
Yes,
matter where we
always.
are. Yeah, always.
Well, you go down. I mean, you do go down.
Yeah, there's been slipbacks like during the Egyptians, the Romans, they were doing brain surgery, and then there was a step back, from there. So
we forgot to go to the moon. We forgot how.
Right.
Really. We went how many 12, 13 times?
52 years ago. After 50, what is it? Or 50? Yeah. I can't do quick math like that, but I think 53 years ago, I guess. So yeah, I know that is a really bizarre thing, isn't it? The computer power of what they had back then was a key fob on a car today. That's how much, that's what they compare it to. It's really amazing if you really think about what they had and how they were able to do that. It's almost like a miracle.
It's quite amazing. Yeah, it is. And what, but when you get into space, once you get out of the atmosphere, the atmosphere really confuses a lot of things. It's difficult to deal with it. But once you get into space, actually, you don't have to deal with all the atmosphere stuff. So lasers can work really well now. That's one idea, is basically to put lasers in space on satellites. We can put them on, make a big laser interferometer, test for gravity waves. You can listen for gravity waves.
But you're not talking weapons, like laser weapons.
No, that's the whole point. That's what pisses me off. It's like I went to these last two conferences. I went to a conference in Lisbon and one in Paris for non-fungible tokens. So crypto, I love crypto. I think it is the next internet, Web 3.0. I would bet my life right now that the decentralized internet is going to be it. And it's going to be blockchain technology with NFTs overlaid on it.
You're talking a foreign language to me.
I'm sorry. I say all these things.
I would like to know more about it. It would be fascinating, but I have no idea what you're talking about. But,
you should learn.
I've heard about these auctions where some things have gone at auction for crazy money and what's it called? Non-fungible?
NFTs is like the buzzword. It's one small piece of the technology puzzle. And it's so easy to make them and sell them that basically there's 1,000, 10,000 projects that come up every day, and there's probably nothing behind them actually. It's like 99. It's like 1999 in San Francisco. Basically, you have this new technology that comes out. Everybody sees it, understands that it's breakthrough, but now they're trying to find these use cases for it. But it's very good. It verifies trust digitally, so you can verify that something's digitally valid. And if you think about
nobody can put a virus to it or change it somehow. So how secure is secure?
It's more secure than anything we've had in the history of humans.
History of humans?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, that's all the mining that they're using on Bitcoin. That is that whole network is using all of its processing power so that you can't defeat it. And that's all it does. It does database management. It's just a database, but it verifies the hell out of that database with thousands and thousands of computers all around the world. So the NSA can't crack it,
Wow. NSA can't crack it. Wow. No. I had bought $100 worth of Bitcoin way back, and not way back, but way back enough to it's astonishing what happened to it.
Yeah.
So
do you still have it, or did you keep it?
I do.
Or
I
did you lose it?
still have it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You have way more
I
than me
haven't
then.
checked on
I
it in a
don't have
long
any.
time, but
I
yeah.
wish I had more Bitcoin. Yeah, it's just one form of the technology. It's like the one trick pony. You know, that's all it does is it burns tons of energy to secure the network, so that nobody can break it essentially. But there's many now. They're making hundreds of other blockchains that are much faster, much cheaper, but they don't have nearly the security. Obviously, you know, that's all Bitcoin has. It's a database. You know, where are the ones and zeros, and that's it. That's it. But now the security aspect of it, what people don't understand is, as long as you do a few simple things to secure your assets, it's way, way safer. It's way more secure, right? But like we just don't, you don't know what that is yet. Like you wouldn't send your credit card, you wouldn't send all your credit card numbers to somebody you don't trust, right? Along with your address, you wouldn't send them all the information. But you would send it to a vendor in order to buy something, right? See, this to you is obvious. You're like, yeah, of course I would send it to that person, right? But you wouldn't send it to the unscrupulous person. So you know what to hide. You know not to give away the 3 little numbers on the back of your credit card, right? But try and explain that to your kids. It's going to take years to explain the credit system, you know, to kids. So it's not like it's more difficult. It's same level of complexity. It's quite easy. It's open source. You know, that's why it's open source. That's why they can't crack it. So yeah, it's definitely coming. Yeah, you already have Bitcoin, man. You have more than me, so you're on your way.
Well, yeah, well, a little
but
bit.
I think we can use it. That's what I'm saying. We can use the technology to break through. You know, it's disruptive technology. It's disruptive. It is going to disrupt the hell out of everything. Like I promise. Like it's going to disrupt. So I want to get in at the ground level and orient it, the movement or whatever, towards science. Because right now, I didn't see any. There was no mention of science at the last 2 conferences I was at. There's nothing. They didn't talk about education. They didn't talk about science. All they talked about was, you know, finance, sports, play to earn, pay to earn games. You know, different types of games, casinos. You know, there was after a while, I was like going crazy. Like I wanted to kind of make a scene, you know, and be like, hey guys, where's the science? But I was there as a media writer. You know, I didn't want to be like the media guy that got in free and then just starts chanting DSci, you know, decentralized science. That's what I want to create, DSci.
Hey, well, that's interesting. This guy makes a really good point as far as stepping back, you know, going backwards in history. The burning of the Alexandria Library, that was like in Caesar's time, I believe, like 1,000-year history was burned or something like that, if I remember right, something like that. But yeah, that's true. Oh my God, can you imagine? So here's a question up here. Are you aware of the 23-minute video? I tried to last time I had Lou on the show, I tried to get him to talk about that. Have you spoke to him any more about that?
No, I've only talked to Lou that one time, you know, which is probably good, you know, because he has a top secret. He still has a security clearance. And he's talking to me. I don't. And yeah, I don't know. Could just cause issues. So I think he's just kind of avoided, you know, direct online.
Yeah, he hasn't. Wait a minute. I've got. Okay, I've got someone that needs to be booted out. I don't have my. Let me get this. Someone's trying to put webcams up there. Sorry about that, everyone. I don't have my moderator in there tonight, so please be kind to me. So here's another question up here.
Yeah, I'll answer it while you're looking at it. Yep. Let's see. Martin Willis live shows. Chris from J. Allen. Chris mentioned Lukatsky's book. Does he have a comment on the connection discovered between UAP and paranormal events or the hitchhiker phenomena Intel people experienced? Yeah, I'm going to Blind Frog Ranch. You know, that's in the Vernal Valley. I talked to another guy who was going there, and they invited me up there, you know, and initially I was like, I had to think about it. And
where is that?
It's in the Vernal. It's right next to Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch.
When are you going there when you're out there?
Yeah.
Geez, I might have to make an emergency trip out there. I don't know.
If you come, man, we have to get you in. Yeah. You can be my +1. Actually, Alexei's already my +1.
Yeah. I'll be dragging someone along with me.
It's pretty far from Maine, though. It's pretty far.
Yeah, I know.
That would be awesome, though. It'd be great if
I
you
feel
come
like
out.
doing a lot of traveling lately, so I've been doing a lot of that, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So
Yeah, you should come out. I think it'd be awesome. But let's see. I was answering the hitchhiker effect. So I had to think about it because, yeah, I mean, after reading that book, I had another partner I was working with behind the scenes anonymously, and he actually quit because he started seeing orange orbs. You know, he saw him at like his work, and he saw him back at his house, and so yeah, I mean, and then after read that book, you're like, great, you know, it's this contagious effect. It's going to affect your family. So yeah, I think you have to consider it, you know, if you're in this field. So
yeah, you know, I mean, I had a long time researcher on, I don't know, a few months ago, and he basically said he got away from this because of things happening, and he's kind of dipping his toe back in the water a little bit, you know. So yeah, luckily I haven't had anything. I've had a few times where I thought I saw a UFO, but it ended up being something else, which is fine with me. I'd rather know, you know. I really don't want to. I want to be darn sure that I'm seeing a UFO before I say publicly I'm seeing a UFO. You know what I mean? So and one of them, I'm going to see if I kept it here, is so bizarre. I hope I kept it on here, because it looked just exactly. Shoot. Oh yes, I have it right here. Here it goes. And at first, when you're looking at it, it looks like a UFO. Then it looks like two. And this was down in Miami. I don't know, in February. Okay, there it goes. You can see it kind of looks like a saucer, right? And it's hard to see. It's kind of small, but and then you start to see two, and about right here. Where'd it go? Okay, there it comes back as two. You can see the two right there. Barely see two. But anyway, that ended up being a plane pulling a banner behind it. And it was just the angles of it turning. And that's why for a while it looked like two UFOs. So, and that was, I mean, I got in Miami up on this ship, and I'm looking out, and I said, oh my God, I'm here 2 minutes and I'm seeing a UFO. And but I really don't want to come out and say that I want to be. I feel like there's a credibility factor here, and I really don't want to go down the road of saying I'm seeing a UFO when it can be explained. I'd rather it be explained if it can be.
And what if it's a UFO though? Would you be happy you filmed it?
If I was absolutely unable to, say what it was. And then nobody else could help me with it. Like there's Mark D'Antonio from MUFON. He's a video analyst for MUFON, and he helps me quite a bit. I had another experience when I thought for sure I was seeing something crazy, and he said it looks like it could be a drone, even though there was high winds or whatever. It looked like it could be a drone, and I totally agree. I have really put that in the drone category. So yeah. If something is complete, I mean, I would love to see when I'm always looking. The one thing my first sighting has done for me, it keeps me looking in the sky all the time. I'm always looking up. You know, other people may be looking at their phone, but I'm looking up a lot of the time. And it is kind of interesting with, the comment you hear a lot out there is, okay, how come we don't really have any really good videos if there's 9 billion phones out there? I don't know if there's that many, but there's quite a few. So,
or can I share my screen, Martin?
Oh, please do. Yes, I saw you were doing something.
Yeah. Have you? Do you know about Sky360?
I do not.
Okay, cool. This is one of the companies we're partnering with. So this is.
Are you talking about the thing that you're doing now?
Yeah, the thing I'm not supposed to talk a lot about.
Right.
Or I'll get... but I will, because I think it's important. This is Sky360.org. It's citizen science out of Austria. So it's nonprofit. And so basically what they want to do is put up these camera systems. Basically camera systems all around the globe. The goal is 150,000 systems around the world.
Wow.
And basically, this is just the initial. So this is a fisheye lens. You see, this is all the way around.
So is that why we're seeing like the cloud in a curvature?
Yep. So this is one fisheye lens. You know, it sees the whole sky.
I see.
Yep. And the goal, and I'll just play this here. You'll see there's a UAP here. This is from one in Houston on this date. And you'll see it stops here, right? Okay. And then it'll start moving again. You see?
Oh yeah. So this was now for those of you listening to audio, Chris, if you would send me the link to this website, and I'll put this in the show notes.
Definitely, yeah. It's Sky360.org.
Okay, Sky360.org for those of you listening audio. Yeah. So in this one particular case, what type of backup systems do they have as far as other things that this could be explained to be? Do they have?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that it's some sort of drone, you know, because if it's in space, you know, how does it stop and then start moving again in space? I don't understand that.
Oh, this is in space, actually.
No. So we don't know how far away it is. That's the problem. So I'll go back. So this is basically in Houston. You have an enclosure, and maybe I'll just go back here and explain a little bit.
All right.
If I can get out of this full size. Yep. If we have an enclosure here, this thing.
All right.
So this is one enclosure. They're trying to put 150,000 of these around the world. So we're designing them now. Yeah, I've been working with them. Richard Hoff. I interviewed him on my channel. And so what we're seeing here is a fisheye image. It's called material out of this, right? And what needs to happen is to train the AI using that material you just saw, and that'll lead in this point to zoom. This is a spin around zoom in camera, right? So this will zoom in and get that HD video that everybody's talking about, you know? And so the idea is you put this system out, it's designed to be able to see the ISS up here. And then it'll notify it, it'll see it like I just showed you, right?
Yeah.
It'll see something weird, and the AI will say, hey, look over here. And the other camera will zoom in on this thing. And so the strength will be, first you get that HD image, right? And this should be doing it all the time, you know, 24/7. But if we get two or more systems in Houston, for instance, if you put another system in Houston, now we can triangulate this. Right?
Would you need
how far away it is.
2 systems or 3 systems?
Well, to triangulate, just like your eyes, you need 2.
I see.
But if we get 3, it's just going to make the solution better.
Now, what about the inclement weather and the fisheye lens and all that? How does that?
Yeah, so that you're always going to have those issues. You know, you're going to have to deal with clouds.
But I'm talking about what about snow, rain, heavy rain, things like that? I mean,
exactly that. Well, that's why. So what we would do is basically get interested people, right? So interested people, universities, UAP groups, those types of things around the world that want to put these systems together and monitor them, you know, knock the snow off, basically care for them. But the idea is we would provide the funding, at least for some of these, you know, for as many as we can. Like if there's a UAP community in LA, you know, a UAP group, and they're like, we'll put out 5, give us, you know, $25,000, and we can put out 5 of these systems. Now we can cover all of LA. You know, we can cover all of LA with 9 systems, I believe.
Now tell me, will this have a central accessibility so anyone can? Is this another open situation?
Yep, it's software developed. Yeah, it's non-profit. So basically, the hardware. Right now, they're developing the hardware that you can order, and you just order it on Amazon Global. And then you develop, and then you download the software, which is right now is being developed for free on GitHub. But that's really what we need. We need the software AI integration.
Yeah, there's a number of people that have been trying to do this sort of thing. You know, my friend Chris O'Brien has been working on something like this.
Skyhub is it?
Skyhub is no, that's I know who you're thinking of. He's been on this show a number of times, 2 or 3 times. I'm trying to think.
Okay,
his name's escaping me right now. I can't remember who it is, but a great guy. There's 3 or 4 people that I know that are involved in that one. I'm not sure what Chris O'Brien's is called. Also, Mark D'Antonio, who I mentioned earlier, is a MUFON, video analyst. He has one he's been working on for quite a few years. All really, I mean, the more the better, as far as I'm concerned. You're talking 150,000 of these out there.
That's what he's aiming for. Yeah, that's what Richard's aiming for. It's awesome.
We're going to see
the idea
things.
is, you can do it at your house. Right now they're developing it up to it's $1,000 to $5,000. So let's say you want to do it for $1,000, you could buy the lower system, but it's much harder to design a system that works at $1,000. So right now, I think they're working on the $5,000 system, and then once that fully developed with the software, now they can upload it. So one last thing is, as you notice here, this is developed, these systems here, right? So now they can triangulate, are developed to be able to see the ISS just as a benchmark. So what you can do is, if you have a system already developed here, you can turn it around and put it somewhere into a satellite. And now you can do it from the other side, right? It should all be, at least the hardware should work. The problem is the software, because now we need new material, because your material that you're looking at, you need to train your AI against, is not just open sky with a few clouds. Now it's like the ground. You have tons of it's a whole different ball game to deal with looking down.
Right.
But, maybe we just aim it. Maybe we aim it straight out. Maybe we don't need to look down. Maybe we're going to orient it so it's looking for any UAPs entering the atmosphere or something.
I see. So, does this thing have like a motion activation, or is it on all the time?
Yeah. So the idea is it's on all the time, running this. Like you saw that image you saw. This is searching all the time, right? It's a night vision camera. It's near IR. It's not. It can see in the day and night. And then the AI is really important, just to say, hey, where does it need to look? Because there's always there's birds, there's bugs, there's insects always flying across, like all the things you have to worry about when you're analyzing a video. What would Mick West say this is? So you have to analyze that out, but it will point out to this. And this has a spinning mechanism in here. Okay, it's like this designed engineer. It can spin fully, constantly, if it needs to, right? You don't want to spin it all the time, obviously. But it will spin, and then it has a zoom camera now that can zoom in and get us like the HD video that we want. That's the whole plan. That's it. Or that's one of them.
Yeah, no. I think it's actually a really good idea. Now, I had someone on the show way back at some point that was talking about the Cubesat launch. And people investing in that. Have you ever heard about that whole situation?
I kind of in talks about that, and we're researching it. Yep, it costs around $350,000 to launch a CubeSat. You can also buy you can get on larger satellites that you can just rent like a little spot. You can rent the looking down or looking up.
You can actually rent space on a satellite?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that seems actually really good. That seems like a really good idea. If someone can train, I don't know if these things are stable or if they rotate, but it seems like you could put some equipment on that would really get some information, it would seem.
Yeah, I mean, this is real UAPs, captured by by this site. if you imagine if we just had one more, in Houston at that time, and then we can correlate. So the point is, if you put out one of these systems, right, if we send the money, then you have to put it on the system. It has to be open source,
Mm-hmm.
and so we can correlate it. And now we could say how far away this is, right? Because the problem is I can't tell you. It could be a drone, maybe, a few thousand feet up, just blinking drone, somebody putting it out there. Or it could be, if it's 10 miles away, now that makes a big difference, right? How high this thing is.
So this circle that I'm looking at, how many miles would you say that is in a diameter?
This is the moon, I think, right? That's like the moon. There's Venus, so there's a building here, and then it looks all the way over. So you're looking at the whole sky right now, the whole sky.
Looking at the whole sky, like if you were there yourself, looking up, you're looking at the entire sky.
Through like a fisheye lens. You know what a fisheye lens
is?
Like here's a crane. Yeah, so I can see the right side. There's some, there's a storm over here going on, and I can see the left side where that UAP thing just flew.
Yeah.
So you can see the whole sky here. The problem is you can't really break out any details,
Yes.
Because your sensor, it's all related to the optics, which really relates down to the sensor size. And we don't really have any good infrared sensor technology just because it's not so popular. We have much better optical cameras because we make millions and millions of them for our cell phones and our cameras and everything. But infrared sensors are very hard to get. So that's why they're really expensive.
I could almost foresee a second generation or a third generation of something like this having a single camera with a telephoto lens that would focus in AI into a moving object.
That's it. Yeah, that's the idea. So this basically the AI, right, that we need to train using this material. You would say, okay, ignore this, it's the moon. Ignore this because it is clouds, right? But now this is something weird. So we can't identify that. So zoom in on this. And that's where it would tell the zoom camera, look at this angle, this azimuth, this elevation. And it would track it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that could be super powerful. And that's just, this is the first generation. So we just keep improving it till we find the truth.
Yeah.
I know. Or till we get at least we can get more evidence. I think everyone, however you look at it, we can get more evidence. And for these systems now, in order to identify something, or in order to call something unidentified, you have to try and identify it as everything else.
Right.
So you can use these systems for regular science, right? You can use it to track bird migrations, if that's what you're into, or you want to track star, meteors. You can track meteor impacts. So that we can get a lot of other data for this. The actual Sky360.org is for citizen science. But ultimately it's towards finding unidentified aerial phenomena I know Richard, I think he's organized towards that. But in order to do that, you need to get all this other science. So we can still use it, still be beneficial.
Yeah. You have to go along the lines of guilty until proven innocent, and innocent would only mean that it's unidentified. You have to look constantly, try to play devil's advocate of every which way of what it is. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing a steady flashing light, which would make me think that, unless this is doing really strange maneuvers, that it's probably some type of either aircraft or, like you said, drone, something like that. You see the way that light is strobing? Isn't that typical for an aircraft?
Yeah, there's one other. I think earlier in this one there is an aircraft. If you look, there's one here. This is a aircraft.
Oh, I see. Wow, it looks a lot bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was a helicopter.
Huh. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that's another interesting thought. I think one of the things that would really help this, compared to other situations that I've listened to people explain, that this is going to have a numbers thing. If you actually do get 150,000 of these things out there, that's ambitious. But
yeah, super ambitious.
yeah, but if you do, there's a lot of times when I've been out looking for meteors or something, I have this silly thought. I wonder if you could have a camera here for the last 1,000 years, what you would see go overhead. And I think of things like that just because I do. And this kind of is going to do that. It's going to have a lot of eyes up into the sky, which is, I think, a great idea.
Yeah, I love it's open source,
Yep. Anyone can look at it. And would that mean that anyone can look at it even if they don't have money invested?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The whole
Yeah.
point is open source. So get the information. The whole point is open source. I think maybe if we need to some size make it more profitable, because the bottom line, if something's profitable, it's going to happen. Things that don't, if it's profitable, it needs to be stopped by some force of government or movement. It has to be stopped. So I want to make it profitable in some way, and that may take delaying the information slightly. If there's some benefit to citizen scientists, because I know there is a lot of benefit to meteors. If you can actually track down where a meteor impacts the ground, they're very valuable.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
yes.
I think it was thousands of dollars per gram.
Yeah, you can get, it's pretty easy to get 20 grand for a meteorite.
Yeah, 20 grand. I heard much more, right? 300,000.
No, but I mean, for a little meteorite you can hold in your
tiny
hand, you can get 20 grand for it. I've heard that. And I've been at a house, I'm not going to say who it is, but he's a UFO researcher where he has several of them, and some of them are pretty big. He's been collecting for a very long time. Pretty amazing to see them.
Yeah, they're big money, I guess. They're big money. You can tell basically how they enter, where they came from, where they're formed. If they came from the asteroid belt, some of them come from Mars. Yeah, there's already American Meteor Society. They have a program like this, but all they do is this level. They just have this level because all they need is where's the giant rock going. They're not trying to get the HD video.
Yeah.
And we need real time. We need real time processing also, because we need to cue the AI onto this one sensor. And that's why they're using one sensor. You can get higher resolution and less AI processing. So we're going to use this one sensor to cue the HD, zoom in camera, but it's got to be real time. So that's kind of where the AI is coming in. We're kind of like the cutting edge stuff. But all this is, this is all doable technology. Really the one little thing we got to get through is the AI, which is tough, but AI is coming along so fast. The experts I've talked to say, yeah, it's doable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to train it one time for one, situation type of thing. So it can be done, but it's still a lot of hours, I'm sure. Tons and tons.
Yeah, I think as far as I understand it, you need the exact material. We have to use this sensor to train the AI neural network. So yeah, it takes time. It's going to take energy, but we have, the people are doing it, and yeah, he does he has a Patreon, Sky360, but really it's just going to Sky360.org on their Discord is really how they organize. And so you can go there, you can just say, hey, I'm interested. I want to get involved. And then, you got to kind of read up and see where you can fit in. But yeah, it's team grassroots engineers, man. It's so cool. I love it. So nerdy and so cool.
Maybe I should put one on my boat this summer.
I want to put it on oil derricks. I think that would be sweet.
I think that would be a great idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
You get away from the light pollution.
Yeah.
All right. You're going to pull this screen down?
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't.
That's all right. So we have a question up here going all the way back to, you mentioned remote viewing, which I think is pretty interesting because there seems to be something to that. Let's see. Ask Chris if he's aware of high-level remote viewing groups focuses on crypto. Are you familiar with this particular one?
I haven't. Focuses on, run by Dick Algar and Daz Smith. No, I haven't heard.
That's interesting.
What do they? Do they remote view the future?
I don't know.
I was thinking. Think of this. I mentioned. So Bitcoin, the way it works is, each computer, it's mining for a certain random number inside of a very large group of random numbers, right? So that's called a 256 hash, or SHA, however to say it. I was thinking, though, if you could use remote viewing, right, and you could tell your computer which, like, bottom third, middle third, or upper third of that number to look for, could the computers have an advantage? Basically, could you use human, if it's possible, human remote viewing in conjunction with the computer to get the answer, to break through cryptological things? Would that be possible to remote view whatever number's coming up next? So that Bitcoin, would actually, that miner would get the answer faster. That could hurt the network.
Do that, with lottery numbers too, you'd be doing really well. Let's see. Have you seen? I saw this documentary years ago. What the bleep do we know? Did you ever see that?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's really fascinating, and I don't know how that relates to any of this. I'm just looking through questions, and thank you for those who put them in caps. Someone said, "Martin, do a video when you're there." I am here, by the way. This is me. Hello, I am here. Maybe someone thought this was a pre-record or not, or something like that. And what do you think about? Someone wants to know, what do you think about the Tic Tac video in general? You did a lot of work on that.
Yeah, I've done many, many videos, gone into, I think, too much depth, actually. I think people have gotten wrapped around the axle of, like, is it rotating? Is it glare? They've been able to kind of describe the narrative, but I might actually make a video about it this week.
And the pilot testimony, to me, is some of the best for David Fravor and Alex Dietrich, to listen to both of them talk about it. I don't think it gets better than that, really. I mean, as a fellow pilot, you must have respect for that, I would think.
That's what really turned me on to this whole subject, was Fravor's initial interview. That was it. I mean, he gave that interview, and I felt like I was there, seeing it. It was amazing. And the other three combined people. I guess what's been interesting to me on the whole Tic Tac is the bigger picture on it. If you listen to Kevin Day, they were tracking them from space. They picked them up with the anti-ballistic missile defense system. And so that's how they knew they were seeing these things. They thought maybe they were spurious contacts. And then they came down from 80,000 feet. If you remember that, that's the radar, the Navy Spy 1 radar. It could see, up to 80,000 feet. And so they track these from space, right, in groups of, I think they said 15 to 20 contacts. And then they go to 80,000 feet, and then go to 28,000 feet, and then go, sea level back up to 28,000 feet. They also say they would track south, just directly south at 28,000 feet at 100 knots. It's just,
and 100 knots is very slow for anything. You can't stay airborne. I mean, I think you have to go over that in a small plane. I used to fly a little bit. I think you have to go like 120 or something like that. I can't remember what it is to stay airborne. But 100 knots is too slow.
It's because at 18,000 feet, there's half as much air.
Right.
Yep.
So you don't...
if you go up to 28,000 feet, there's less than a quarter as much air than there is at sea level.
Yeah.
I assume there's less than a quarter. Quite a bit less. And so you can't just go 100. You can't just go 100 knots because there's not enough air to hold you up. The way our planes work, because we create lift by moving through the air. But if there's not enough air there, you have to actually go faster to maintain the same amount of lift. And that's why the Mach number does the whole weird, right? Because Mach doesn't matter your altitude, right? It somehow gets around the compression. I can't remember. So that's it. So at 28,000 feet, there's just not enough air to only go 100 knots. That's what's really weird. That's why helicopters can't go very high. Helicopters cannot, I think the highest helicopter has maybe gone to 40,000 feet at the most. And that's, they can't rescue people off Mount Everest. You're screwed on Mount Everest. It's because helicopters can't get to you. So they can't get up. Nothing can get up there at that low speed. Is very surprising, except for like a balloon, right? If you're doing that's why the weather balloon. It's very hard to debunk is the weather balloon.
So if as a pilot yourself, knowing that you break, I forget exactly what the speed of sound is, 714 miles an hour or something like that.
It
You know
changes,
what it
yeah.
is.
At sea level, it's I think 650 miles per hour.
But up in the air,
but at 28,000 feet, it's only going to be like 450.
Oh, is that how that works? So anyway, when you're talking about these Tic Tacs shooting at that type of speed and there's no sound barrier, what do you make of something like that? Some people are saying a hologram thing. You know, what are your thoughts about the hologram thing, and how could a hologram show up on radar?
That's the biggest gotcha. Yeah, the hologram can't show up on radar that we understand how that would work. So that's why the multiple contacts. Yeah, people seeing it from different directions, and if we see it in different spectrums of the electromagnetic spectrum, if you see it in infrared, and you see it optically, and you see it with the radar, it really seems like something's there. Especially radar. I mean, well, I guess everything has to bounce the light waves back, but radar, it bounces back.
And so, what are your thoughts about not breaking the sound barrier? What do you think about that?
I mean, it breaks my mind. Yeah, it does. It breaks, because how does it? Because not breaking the sound barrier, like I mentioned earlier, no sound, not breaking the sound barrier. So not breaking the sound barrier. The reason you have this Mach, is because the air molecules get pushed against each other. They're getting pushed against each other so fast that it creates this shockwave,
like a pocket or something, right?
Yeah, basically the sound cannot travel fast enough to get out of your way. If you're going the speed of sound, right, you're yelling, you can't yell fast enough for it to get out of the way. So when you yell, it just builds up. That yell just builds up. If you're running the speed of sound, the yell will just build up, and that will create this shockwave, essentially. And so it really, that's what it's caused by, is something pushing through the air. So the air being moved out of the way, it's being pushed. But when there's no sound and there's no shockwave, if it is moving the air out of the way, it's putting it back with zero really kind of change. It's sliding through it, or sliding around it, or it's acting like a light. It acts like a wave. That's what I was kind of considering, is it's more like a wave where it passes through. It's not acting like a particle where you can run into it, because waves you can stack. You can put two lights together. That's why we use fiber optic cables. It's just so much more effective, because you can just keep stacking light. You can just make the light more intense, because light can stack. It acts like a wave. But if you're using particles, you can't do that. So it's almost like no sound, no pushing through the air. It feels like a wave to me, or like light. We think of it like light is how you would describe it, but then it seems like it's particle, right? Stuff's bouncing off of it. So it's acting like both, again, we're back to quantum mechanics. It's a wave, it's particle. I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah. I love the mystery of the whole thing, actually. It makes it so interesting in general. Here's a question. And by the way, we're going to be opening the phone lines here. Let me just make sure. Yep, Bill is okay. So we're going to be opening up the phone lines here in just a minute. The question here, have you figured out that there are several non-human intelligence living in our oceans? That's something. Let's talk a little bit about. I mean, not in particular. I mean, you're welcome to answer that. But I mean, the ocean's another part of it. And here you are, a Navy guy.
Well, I was Air Force, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. You're totally right. I am so embarrassed. I know. That's the worst thing I could say to an Air Force guy. I'm sorry. But I know this rivalry between the guys. Yeah. I'll be hearing about this for a while.
Me too, brother.
But anyway, so what are your thoughts about, the intermedia? It can go in, and I mean, it's kind of the same thing as the shock wave. It's a very similar thing. It can just go through the media without any apparent slowing down or anything, or splash. Just another really strange thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I guess the only two I've really investigated was the Agua Dia, so the Puerto Rico
Yep, that's an
That
interesting
one's
one for
probably the
sure.
best video of this, going in the water and then it splits.
It splits. Yep.
That's a great video. I mean, that's a really good one. The SCU did an amazing report on that.
That's kind of the start of the SCU was on that particular one.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was a great, that really was I started investigating it, and then I was doing the calculations between the GPS lat long, this super painful calculation. I was like, oh man, this is gonna suck. And then I found their report. I was like, thank God they had done
Someone
all that.
did it already.
All that difficult stuff. Yeah, I was like, oh man.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that it's correct. Than it is to just crunch through all these numbers. So I was very happy. That one and the Catalina Islands one in 2019. Yeah, with the Omaha. It was the Omaha ship.
That's right.
Jeremy Corbell released those 3 videos.
Yeah, that was like someone's video camera, someone's phone camera or something.
Yeah, I guess it was the Viper team, the visual reconnaissance teams that they send out if something weird happens, I guess. And they videoed in the bridge. And it's that orb going, the black and white video, and the orb goes underwater.
Yes.
Appears to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 I've really investigated. It seems like not much information has been out, but I hear all these crazy stories. I hear all these crazy rumors, of things moving really fast underwater, like large things, or coming out of the ocean. You hear about these, a giant triangle, right? That's probably one of the more interesting ones I would love to see, is in 2019 in the classified report that went out, the intelligence classified report that went out before the 25 June. But a year before that. It was a year before that. There was a 2019 intelligence, I guess, classified. I don't know what they call it, but it went viral. Do you hear about that?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. In that actual, another debrief article mentions that.
But no pictures seen yet.
No picture. Yeah. But in the class, that what they said is several people he talked to, several witnesses or people that saw who read it, said that the best picture was this triangle coming out of the ocean.
Right. Or I would love to see that. So, it makes you wonder if that is being viewed by these people that are involved in this new task force. If they see a picture like that, isn't that pretty convincing? That would seem like that would be a very convincing picture.
It sure seems like it. Because we haven't seen any true form yet. The Tic Tac. How else would you describe a Tic Tac? It's smooth, round. But I guess you could say that it's nothing really, or it's just blurry, or it's kind of roundish. But if it's just a triangle, if it's a large triangle and it has clearly defined orbs at each point, at each apex. Mm-hmm. There's water coming off of it as it comes out of the ocean. I don't know. That would be pretty convincing to me. I don't know how else you would explain that.
Yeah.
Maybe why they haven't shown it, because that hasn't come out. We've seen some other photos, but not that one.
Yeah. I wonder why, you have to think their motive is for security reasons, to keep anything like that out. But I wonder what would be the security implication of showing a picture of something like that. Would that be that we couldn't protect ourselves from it? Why would that be withheld is what I'm getting at. Because they have no answer for what it is. Perhaps that's it.
I think of it more as just what's their, why would they release it? There's no benefit to the government.
Okay, that's a good point.
Because they already have all the info, or they think they have all the info at least. And so if they want it, why would they release it? So that's why I think it really needs to be driven. Congress is very effective because they have to be asked. I think they're not just going to walk around and be like, I think we should release this information that's classified and controversial just out into the public space. I think it's exactly the opposite.
Well, we have a caller. Let's take our caller here. I would like to also know, if they do have this very clear picture of this coming out of the water, Wait, hang on just a minute. Let me mute this. If we do, if they do happen to have that picture of this thing coming right out of the water,
mostly they do.
Very clear.
I don't know
Does that mean
right out of the water? I know it's from an F-18, and reportedly
yes.
he saw it come out of the water.
Oh, I got it. But still, it makes you wonder: does the government know more about this? Of what they are? That's the big question. Do they know what they are and what they want? Do they know any more about that than we do? I want your thoughts on that before I take this caller. Frank, thanks for calling and hang in there. We'll get right to you.
I mean, to me, it sounds like no. I think they obviously know more than we know. I think they have a lot more evidence, but I think it's been so compartmentalized and broken up into different little parts and sections that, I think there's probably very few people that even know how much information the government actually even knows.
Yeah. But I'm more or less with you there on all that, really.
And that's what Lou says. He said it's basically understanding. That's what we need now.
Yeah.
I think we can get a lot quicker to understanding if they would give us the evidence that they have.
Right.
Or at least some of it, release something more. It sounds like they will. It seems like it's taken a long time. Yeah.
The three main questions: what are they? Why are they here? What do they want? That would be all nice it'd be nice to know one of those three.
Yes.
or all three of them. All right. We have Frank calling from South Texas. Frank, you are live on the air. Welcome to the show. Frank, are you there? Frank, we can't hear you.
They got him.
Yeah, I guess. All right, Frank, Bill, can you hear me? I don't know what's going on, but we're not hearing Frank. We heard him before with a whole bunch of background. Now we don't hear anything. Bill, I don't know if that's anything you're doing. He's trying to get him on, but yeah, it's awful hard to know. Frank, just jump in if you are back on there. And the line is open. Anyone else want to call? That number is 855-472-5483. Bill is standing by. I remember when all the way back in 2011, when I started this show, I wrote something like that in my text of I believed at that time that some part of the government probably knows something more about this or something along those lines. Frank, are you there? Frank, you are live on the air.
He's going to watch this later. And just...
Okay. Yes,
hey, Frank.
I think we hear your voice, Frank. We need to hear from you. All right. I'm going to have to bump you out.
Sorry, Frank.
Your last chance.
I'm going to guess.
I still don't hear anything.
Oh, he's not hearing us, Bill. That's what it is. He's not hearing us, Bill. So, Bill, we may have to take care of that in the phone line somehow, how it goes on KGRA. But so, Bill, just so you know, he's not hearing us. Sorry about that, Frank. I don't know if we'll get that ironed out or not. For now, I'm going to take down the phone number. Probably shouldn't take any calls until that gets straightened out. But all right, here's the other question for you. So we don't know whether or not anyone knows any more than we know. Do you think there'll ever be a time in our society down the road? Before I finish this question, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and just say that I watched a video back in the 1950s. And this guy, he looks like he's about 70 years old then. He goes, I just want to live long enough to know what they are. So do you think that day will ever come? Do you think we'll ever, I don't want to use the disclosure word, but I want to use the word, do you think the day will ever come that we'll know what these things are that so many people have seen over the years?
I hope so. I think so. Before this time last year, I would have said no, never. Yeah. So I think it's changing so fast. I think we're moving in. This is the information age, and
yeah.
If it's true and if it's there, they're not going to be able to keep it secret. It's just not good. We're in the information age, you know.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. I'm going to try another call and see if Bill was able to fix that. This is Steve from Washington State. Steve, you are live on the air. Welcome to the show. Steve, can you hear me? No dice.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Can you hear us?
All right, guys, I'm not hearing you at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, tell Bill, thanks, Steve. And sorry about that, everyone. There's something wrong with the phone line. We tested it earlier. It seemed to work fine, but that's the way it goes. Sorry about that, everyone. And so, you know, it would be nice to know, but I'm not really sure if that's necessary. And, you know, maybe it's a bunch of different things too. Maybe we might get an explanation for one thing, but there may be other things involved that we may not even be able to understand. How do you like that?
Yeah, I hope not. That's yeah, I was talking with Rather Be Squidding last night, and he was saying that it may be just unknowable, you know, that we can't know it. I tend to think that we're gonna. When I talked to Leslie Kane, she said it's much more complex than we think. Was her impression. You know, I kept asking her, "What do you think?" She trying to avoid the question, but I kind of got.
Yes, she always does try to avoid. She never wants to say. Yeah. She never wants to say ET. She's very careful. Yeah.
Or I guess she doesn't. I guess Lou said the same thing. He's like, it doesn't really matter what I think. It's what I can show or actually prove or, convince other people. So, but yes, she's definitely not convinced. Maybe herself. But her point was it's much more complex. I think she'll find that it's related to life after death. She was studying life after death, and
right. Yeah.
Yes. She just thinks it's way more complex. So I think it'll be we will learn, you know, facts as we go. It'll be a learning process of expand. That's why I'm also widening my net, you know, of what I'm looking at. I'm not just analyzing, you know, the gimbal, did it rotate or not, you know, because I think it's useful, but I almost think we're kind of past that at this point where now it's, all right, what is this thing? What can we learn about it? So I think I think it'll be a gradual learning process to some end. We'll see how it goes. But that's not normally how it works, right? Normally, disruptive information just flips everything on its head.
Yeah, like people always say about the White House lawn. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Why would they choose that? That wouldn't be anyway. Benevolent or malevolent? That is the other question. Is you know, occasionally you hear things about you know, issues with people's health. People were hurt, you know, things like that. But for the most part, I would think that if whatever it is here from whatever they're coming from, wherever they're coming from, they could certainly do a lot more damage than has been done, I would think. You know, if we're the anthill and they're higher intelligence like us walking by, could kick the sand a little bit. And
yeah. You see a lot. Well, you hear terrible stories from experiencers, you know, they're kind of like plagued their whole lives and, you know, passes down genetics.
Right.
But it doesn't seem necessarily malevolent, I guess. It almost just seems like force of nature, you know. I guess, is a tornado malevolent or is it benevolent? I guess it's probably, I mean, there's no, I guess, motive for the tornado, but it destroys your whole town and kills everyone, you know, or just as an example. But it seems like it's more of a force of nature, I guess, is my impression. But
yeah, you know, we're going to give Frank another try. We'll give him one more try. Bill says give him one more try. Frank, you are on the line from South Texas. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Awesome.
You can hear us now. All right. Hi, Frank. Welcome to the show.
Frank.
Sorry about that.
Welcome, man.
Yeah. You got a question for our guest?
Yeah, sometimes he works, sometimes it doesn't. But Chris, by the way, really thanks for all the work you've been doing in this and went.
You're welcome, man. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. So basically, with the different ways craft can go from one medium to another, I think about the description that Bob Lazar talked about when he was working on the craft that he was working on. That there's a way to, the way he's describing it, it almost sounds like he's aiming a gravity well, and the craft that you're in falls into that well. So it doesn't matter what media you're in, whether it's air, space, water. It just takes you from one point to the other. So you're basically existing out of space time, and therefore you're not subject to sonic booms. I mean, have y'all thought about that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know Lazar is controversial. You know,
Yes.
He's a controversial guy.
I don't believe in him.
Yeah, so I know Martin doesn't believe, and I, you know, I trust Martin. I don't know, but very interesting how he talks about that. Yeah,
I mean the concept doesn't. It seems to make sense. I mean, when you're able to, I mean, I've actually years back, I actually got to see what I thought it was a shooting star make a 90-degree turn at a 45-degree turn, and realized it was a big star.
Cool.
And the way you're able to defeat inertia is to be outside of space time, and so that's how I figure that this phenomena is being able to do what it does, is that it's and the way I'm thinking about it is shooting a gravity well in whatever direction, and you're not subject to the laws of physics as we know them.
Yeah, exactly. He says Salvatore Pais. I was also looking at his patents, which are very interesting, and they were kind of similar. So I don't know where he got the ideas for it, but you know, my rudimentary understanding of it is that at least Lazar said that you can use a waveguide to aim the gravity waves, just like microwaves.
Right.
Yeah, back in that time when, you know, 89, I guess, when he said that, I believe it was 89, they hadn't invented or they hadn't found gravity waves yet, right? We hadn't actually observed them with our scientific instruments, but they'd been postulated for many years. You know, I think Einstein talked about gravity waves being possible. At least I know they were postulated for many decades previously. So he could have come up with that, you know, from some sort of science fiction book, I guess.
Well, as it turns out, science seems to follow science fiction. Not overnight, over a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that would be it, right? And so what they found in 2015 at the LIGO is that wherever it is, Montana, anyway, that what they found is that there are gravity waves. They detected them. I mentioned with the laser, Martin, you know, I was talking about it's an interferometer. Basically, you just shoot a laser down a long hallway, 4 kilometers, and then you time it when it comes back. And so they have 2 long hallways, 90 degrees apart, and the laser should come back at the exact same time.
Right.
But if they don't, now you can say there's gravity waves. And so they proved that. That's what I was talking about in space, right? Because in space, the reason they put it's 4 kilometers is they have to suck out the air to make it a vacuum. But in space now, we can do it like 1,000 kilometers. Maybe make it even, you know, try and listen. You know, actually listen to see if we're receiving any transmissions. You know, at that wavelength. But yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. And Salvatore Pais, his high frequency gravity wave generator, that's what it is. That's what he does to actually excite the outside of the craft. He calls it a vacuum state. But yes, exactly. And also why I was interested in that telekinesis, right? It shows that there's some other way to transmit information, at least, than what we can see, what we know. So cool.
That gets back to entanglement, right? I guess being able to have your significant other self on the other end of the universe, correct? Is that what you're referring to?
I don't know. I guess it'd be harder to get. No, I don't know.
Able to hit thought beyond
Yes.
the speed of light.
Exactly. Yep. So that would show, and we're considering actual scientific experiments to prove that, right? To find that would be part of this. We're looking for evidence of UAPs as well, but I think you can do many cheaper experiments to actually go, for this psychic connection, because we all have a brain, so we can all participate maybe in some of these experiments. If we do like a mass experiment to prove the psychic connection, yeah, you can. Just shows there's more than we know, which obviously there's more than we know.
Yeah. Well, hey,
thank you for put in my question or two. I'm really thankful for the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Frank.
And that's all the time we have for calls this evening. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I think we know very, very. I say this probably too much. Very little about what's really going on around us. We know just a little tiny fragment of what there is to know. That's probably right in front of us, and we just can't figure out what it is. And that includes UAPs as well. So Chris, we're sort of at the end of wrapping up the show. We've got about 3.5 minutes or something like that. So if you would talk about how people can find your YouTube channel. It's down in the notes of the show notes, as well as down on the YouTube and Facebook, down in there on the text of the program. All you have to do is click on that link. But go over some of the shows, if you can. I don't know if you can pull up your site right there. And, talk about some of the titles and some of the shows you have in the last few minutes we have here. And don't forget, everyone, next week I'm going to be over at James Fox compound over in Vermont, and we're going to be filming live, doing the show live right there, and should be a lot of fun. That's a high energy guy right there, I'll tell you, James Fox. So
sorry, I just all I have is this.
It's kind of tricky sometimes to find your channels, but you did a show on dark matter, which I really
here we go, my channel,
liked a lot. I think it's really funny that a lot of people that are skeptical or have been, for instance, I've had Seth Shostak on, I think 3 times on this show, and he's very skeptical about any part of the, UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them. But yet, he thinks there's really something to dark matter. And it's a thing that we can't physically see, touch. There's the only evidence we have is the reactionary things that are happening out in the universe. That's really it. So this is and
95%. It's not even that there's a little bit of dark matter. Yeah. It's like no, there's 80% of what we see is dark matter.
Or 7, I think it's 73%, or if I have that of all, right? Is that what it is? Something like that. Yeah.
And then the other 20-something% is dark energy. So it's really just 95% of the stuff we don't know what it is.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So, and they don't think their models are wrong,
Right.
It's like, if you try to do Google Maps on a flat Earth, basically I bet you're going to be 95% off. You probably won't even be 95% off, so but so I've been making these fighter pilot videos. Essentially, what I use, Digital Combat Simulator is a free to use.
I love that.
It's super cool.
Feels like you're really flying in that thing.
It feels like you're really flying in that thing, man. When you're flying it, I do enjoy it. I'd miss flying.
I bet you do.
I retired a couple years ago, and so it's cool to get back in the jet. And it's fun. And talk to Elizondo, Leslie Keane. So I have a few interviews over there. She's amazing, Leslie Keane.
Yep.
There's yours, right? Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to we have just a minute here, but getting back to flying, I can't imagine how exciting that must be. So exciting to have the acceleration and to be able to have that at your command. Oh my God, that would be such a dream to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the simulators these days are amazing, really amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's exact. It looks exactly. Obviously, you can't simulate the feel and the G's and all that, and the sweating and the anxiety, but But you can simulate everything else. It looks the same. The switches almost exactly the same. It's cool. Yeah, I would check it out. You're into flying.
All right, we have to wrap. So thanks so much. And remember, next week, James Fox. Tomorrow night, Skinwalker Ranch, same time right here on YouTube. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And
thank you, Martin. Thanks to everybody who's here. Thanks for being here, guys.
You bet. And you're always welcome on the show. Take care. All right, everyone. So keep your eyes to the sky, and we'll see you next week.